Hey, my name is Matt Kloskowski, and I wanted to give you a quick introduction to what you're about to see here. So one of the member benefits of ON1 Plus is that Hudson, Henry, and I do photo critiques for everybody. Every photo that gets submitted gets critiqued. And we do that which can end up being hundreds of photos. So what we've done is we realize some of the value in photo critiques is not only seeing your photo looked at, but also seeing all the other photos get reviewed as well, because you learn things from different types of photos. So what we've done is we create a recap at the end of that, where we take about 20 photos. It's not our favorites, it's not our favorites, it's not better or worse. We think that they're good learning moments, and we put those together in this recap. So that's what you're about to see here, is us recapping some of the photo critiques for ON1 Plus members. Hope you like it. If you like ON1 Plus or want to find out more about it, you can always go to on1.com/plus.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever time of day it is there for everybody. My name is Matt Kloskowski, and I have Hudson Henry on the line here with me. So,
hey, everybody.
So if you didn't know this, through the magic powers of the internet, I am in Tampa, Florida, and Hudson is in Portland, Oregon. So pretty cool that we're able to do this and get all of you guys on here as well. I got the questions tab open, so they're not verbal questions, but if you come up with questions pertaining to the critiques along the way, feel free to ask them. But that said, we're going to jump right into it here. We have about 25 photos that we want to move through pretty quick, and we kind of picked that we picked. They're not the better photos, they're not the worst photos. We're not picking on anybody. It's more we picked what we thought were teachable moments. You know, where a photo where we thought we actually could say something that might help the group, and we didn't want them to slip by, and maybe you didn't get to see them in the entire critique. So that's what this recap is where we just pick some of them and go through. So we'll start off here. This is one of the ones that Hudson had in his critique arsenal.
Yeah, and in this image, you know, it's a fine portrait. It's just that the light, you know, it's in the middle of the day. It's in that time of day when the light is so complicated to get a good scene. And I just suggest, you know, I can tell that wherever you're at, there's a lot of open shade in the background there. And if you moved your portrait subject into that open shade so the sun isn't just blazing, striking in the hair and blowing the hair out, it's kind of a cool effect. But at the same time, if you were ever to go to print this, it's just going to look like white where there's nothing printed in there. So you're going to get a lot more even light if you get her out of the harsh direct sun. And the other option would be to get a flash on her and add some artificial light to fill that shadow in and get a better balance. If you really want to use that sun to kind of rim light her the way it's doing, you could still do that without losing those highlights by adding some light to her face.
Yeah, and I would agree there. You know, I want to commend them, because it's the vision to see that, because when people are backlit and they have that edge light, it's a very nice effect to get. As you said, it's just a little bit too much.
Yeah, it's another thing we're talking about time of day. If this was low angle light at the end of the day or early in the morning, it could be just perfect. You know, it's not, the shadows wouldn't be as deep and dark, but
absolutely. And you could, you know, like you said, you could pull, if you found some open shade where she was, you'd still get that edge light. It just wouldn't be as harsh. The other thing I would say is, even if the light was good, and I've learned this only through my wife. Women and girls, they typically don't like their hair to look like this.
No.
So you want to try to let them know or tame it as much as you can. But I know this because I bring my wife along on all my portrait shoots. She does all the posing and stylizing and everything. And anytime I shoot, she's like, "Oh, you didn't do anything about the hair." So
a little spray bottle with just to kind of wet the hair a little bit and get that flyaway down helps so much.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next up. So this was one of the ones in my round. So I thought this was a good moment to kind of talk about, because it's a well captured photo. You know, shutter speed, the water kind of has that silky look to it. It's got some nice colors. Compositionally, it's okay. It's a well captured photo. But what I wanted to where I kind of felt it fell a little bit short was it didn't come across as a compelling landscape or outdoor photo to me. And then I saw the people down here, and it didn't necessarily come across as a compelling photo of people out in their element doing things, because those can work as well. You know, you can put a person in the scene to show scale, or maybe taking a picture of another photographer, but it kind of fell a little bit short in that area to me as well. They don't have such a great pose. They're kind of hidden down here in the corner. I know you can't control this all the time, but if you could, you know, throw a red jacket on them or a yellow jacket. Hudson has a yellow jacket that just photographs awesome whenever we're out shooting. So as a photo trying to showcase people in here, it kind of falls a little bit short because they're hard to see. And then as a landscape photo, it also falls a little bit short because I think, to me, you know, the real action is down where they are. You know, you're going to want a wide angle lens shooting up into this water and really capturing this entire scene.
Yeah, I think getting right down close to them with a wide angle could be a really compelling image. And if you place them in one of those rule of thirds position, say in the bottom right, if you get on the same side of the river as them, could be just incredibly compelling. You know, fill the frame with that waterfall.
Yeah. Maybe actually, and if you got into a location where you were behind them and they, instead of what was in front of them was the rocks, but maybe this water, they'd stand out more too.
A lot of contrast there.
All right, next up, I think this one was one of Hudson's.
Yeah, and this is an example of getting out there at the right time of day. You've got a beautiful morning. It's kind of this surreal cloudscape, and you've done a good job here putting the lake shore where it meets the mountains in that upper third line, you know, that divides the frame into thirds. And the lower portion is, you're obeying the rule of thirds really well here. My only problem is that, you know, you've got this neat ice-covered rocks and kind of the ice blending to water in the foreground, and there's a lot of potential for finding some really interesting piece of foreground with your wide-angle lens and kind of filling the frame with it, getting right down close to those rocks and making them an interesting element. And I see here, you know, there's just not a lot of interest in the foreground to hold our attention and lead us into the scene. And I can see where this ice is melting and transitioning to bare rocks and water, that there's a lot of potential for a really interesting foreground. If you got close to it and kind of examined it, you're using a 23 millimeter lens here, so you're going to be able to keep a lot of depth of field from the foreground to the background, and it would just be an interesting composition.
You know what, man? Spot on. I'm not going to say anything else because I think that's exactly that's really good. Good advice. All right, so this was one of the ones in my group, and I thought it was a good photo to, you know, we're out there at the right time of day. I liked, you know, I don't know about you, Hudson, but I had a lot of wintry photos in, which makes sense because we're right in the middle of winter.
Absolutely.
And so many of the winter photos have that muddy snow. I mean, you and I went shooting just about this time of year last year, and we were up in a snowy area, but it was just mucky snow.
Yep.
And I liked that this was pretty pristine and clean. So I liked all that about it. You know, good time of day. So one of the things that grabbed me about this is it's obviously it says sunset. So the sun has already been down somewhere over here past these hills. The problem is everything is so dark in your foreground.
Yeah.
And so this might have been a nicer photo at sunrise. What you have to think about sometimes is what you're shooting. Where's the sun going to be? Sometimes things, you know, like beaches. I think beach scenes look better to me sometimes after the sun goes down. I like the colors. I like everything better. But in an example like this, like, I think I want to see light on this. And if the sun's going down back here, even at sunset, you're not going to see that. But at sunrise, you could see that first golden light on this barn in the morning. You see all these nice golden colors out here. I think it would have been a really pretty photo at sunrise. I would also kind of searched around for a little bit of a stronger foreground. Just white snow is probably not doing it for us. But there's all these fences and all these different things around here. I bet you could have found an angle to kind of put something leading into this in your foreground.
Yeah, I think the dawn light on that fresh snow would just be amazing too, and you'd have the flag lit. It would really stand out.
Yeah. All right, next up.
You know, this is another example of being out there at the right time of day. You've got a great complicated exposure. You used f/22 to get some great diffraction and get that sun star nice. You got this interesting triangle in between the trees. This is one where we're putting the horizon right in the center to capture the reflections in the trees works for me. The only thing
Yeah.
I would think about is shifting it just a little bit to get the A-frame structure, the sun, and that low tree in the center of the frame just off to the one side or the other just a little bit to get it just a little bit more compelling composition. But I think you did a great job, and kudos for being out there at just the right time.
Do you think it's a little bit strongly on the process side?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've all seen sunsets like this, or
Yeah.
sunrises like this, so I don't think it's all that heavy-handed, but at the same time, it has a little bit of a surreal effect. And I personally would probably pull back on the saturation and the clarity a little bit, but
So
still.
I saw a lot of this in mine too, shooting into the sun, where you try to pull the highlights back too far.
Yeah,
And I think that when you start to see that happen a little bit here, and what I always tell people is don't feel like you have to. It's okay that the sun and even the clouds around it go to white because it really is white.
yeah.
Um, so you don't have to get really heavy-handed on your highlight processing because it's okay that that goes a little bit brighter.
This
Hudson,
one,
what do you got?
well, this one again, that age-old saying, I'd rather have a photo of the clothesline in magical sunset light than the Taj Mahal on a flat, cloudy, lightless day. And this one, I like the leading lines of the tracks. I like how they come in from both directions, and I just like how the sunset light turns what is really kind of an ordinary scene into something magical. And I like the way that you've used lines here to kind of draw us in, Jonathan. I think, on the processing side, it might be a little bit of a heavy vignette. And when you have such a beautiful sky, I might want a little bit more sky in the image. But I really like the way that you use the lines here. And I like the way that you were out at sunset using that good light.
Here's a shot. Looks like from an old vintage car. Um, you know, I was gonna say nice way to get out there and find kind of those old type of scenes and whatnot that we see out there, and to kind of even get in there and zoom in and try to find something interesting about it rather than just take the whole car. I was gonna offer two things about this one. One being it looks like you added significant amount of contrast to it
Hmm.
and on a post-processing side. So that's okay. It's just you got to paint it away. And if you go to the homepage on the blog, there's actually a video that I did on the good, the bad, and the ugly of dynamic contrast. But you can see how all these blurry areas back here start to get contrasty. So I think we want to try to remove that. The other thing that I was going to offer is, um, sometimes you can't control the time of day out there, but so if we can get some flatter light, these scenes to me I think work a little bit better. And the other thing is I was going to challenge this person to go in and really try to tell a better story from photos like this. I pulled up a blog post from a friend of mine, Bill Fortney. So if you just go to Bill Fortney, Fortney, and if you just went to Google and type in Bill Fortney and then type in Old Car City, you'll see this post. But for the most part, Bill does a lot of this type of work, and you'll see he really tries to get in there and tell a little bit of a story about a deeper part. There's a pulled back one, but you'll see he finds these details in here. So I was going to challenge you to go in there and try to not show as much as you did, but maybe just find some of the little details that kind of don't have our eye darting around the photo so much.
Hmm. This is it's got a great emotional feel, this image. You've got the boat heading out fishing. And I think it's an interesting thing that probably all of us suffer from time to time. You're trying to kind of include maybe too much. I think as you're photographing this, the bird seems like an important element in the scene, but it's a little too far over to the left edge of the frame. And so to me, it gets a little distracting and actually pulls me away from the important part of the scene, which is the boat leaving land, heading out to go fishing, and the nets that are in the water in front of it. And I feel like it creates a lot of negative space behind the boat, and the boat is leading our eye out of the frame. It's a little close to the right edge of the frame. So in this particular shot, I'd try to make sure that there's room for the boat to move into the frame. So I would put it over in the left third of the frame, and maybe not just not have the seagull, or wait for a seagull to come in when the boat's framed in a little bit better way.
Yeah, good comments on that one. I thought the same thing. Neat, and love the atmosphere
I
here,
love the
though.
atmosphere too. Absolutely. Great shot.
All right, St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome. So the what amazed me about this photo is that shaft of light kind of just shining down on the guy kneeling. And so what I said about this one is you're to go back there when there's a shaft of light and you're next to move in front of all these people. You're supposed to ask this guy to move out of the way and crop in and just get that. So little tip for you. Whenever you're shooting, whether it's indoors, whether it's outdoors, if light is just hitting one thing, take a picture of it. It's like, if you're ever to look around and you see light hitting something and then you see lack of light and everything else where light is just hitting something, as long as it's something interesting, take a picture of it. So this had the makings of being really, really cool if we could have just cropped it and framed it a little bit differently. See, all the pews and everything here work really well, and that gives us that feeling of a church. And then, you know what ruins it is all the people sitting in just regular old, cafeteria chairs on the sides here. And I do like I like what you did in post to try to save it, which is looks like you darken them, but just something to think about. I know you probably can't go back and reshoot this, but for everybody out there who runs into a circumstance like this, I think we need to use our feet and try to work the scene a little bit differently, because you had the makings of something really cool here.
And I don't think it's going to upset anyone there for you to take a few steps forward and get that photo that really fills the frame with the good light and the person kneeling. I think, and it would make such a compelling photo. But at the same time, kudos for seeing that shaft of light and capturing the image that you did. But I do think that stepping forward would just create a tremendously compelling image.
Yeah, definitely. Just enough to get that guy's head out of the frame. I think we could have cropped in right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up.
Yeah, I just love this one. I think it's just an example of seeing something that most people wouldn't. You're out there in really good light and you've seen this architectural detail and the way that it's reflecting off of the building. And I really like the way that you used the rule of thirds and diagonal lines and created triangles in your composition. So this is just a fun one that I know that 9 times out of 10 I'm probably gonna miss when I'm out there, and I just love seeing what other people see, and I like the way that wonderful post sunset sky is kind of setting the whole thing off and reflecting in the glass.
Yeah, great colors. All right, so I thought, this one here, so sunset shot of I guess a yoga pose of some sort. Really very, very, very cool. So I'm going to guess that there's a flash over here and that there's a flash over here, because as I look at her face is lit from over here and her legs are lit from over here, and it doesn't look like there's direct light coming from this way. So really cool. That'll accentuate so many curves and tones and everything in a person's figure, and even in clothes and anything that you shine light on. Mm-hmm. So great, great time of day. Symmetry's okay, all that's okay, and then so love the sunset. A little bit blown out back here. Would have liked to seen that pulled back a little bit more in post. The only other thing that I wanted to offer about this is I probably would also darken this a little bit here in post, but I wasn't feeling the ankle cut off, like almost right at the calf down here. And I would almost think of this situation as, because I have a friend of mine who does modeling, and he actually recently posted a photo on his Facebook page where he was on the beach in the sand, and it's like they left him standing there long enough that the water kept coming up and burying his feet, and the shot that he posted was his ankles basically cut off. So I would almost consider this the same thing. We can't see what's down there. It's just being reflected there. So it's a small, tiny little nitpick here. I wanted to put it in because I just thought, what a neat photo and what a great use of some external flash. If I could go back and reshoot it, I don't think I would have put her in the water like that to cut off her foot.
I completely agree. I think it would be amazing if she were on a rock surrounded by water.
Yeah.
But it's a really great idea, and it's very creative, and you did a beautiful job lighting her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really, the light looks great on that one.
And this one, wow, what an amazing sky. And I think you did a great job in post with your split toning and getting a little bit of warmth in the highlights and coolness in the shadows. I really like the processing. The one thing that I just want to say is with a sky like that, and a foreground lighthouse, I would get rid of the rocky sandy beach in the foreground. There's to me not a great compelling foreground subject here, and it feels as if the lower half of the frame is a little bit wasted considering you have such a magnificent sky. I would move a little closer, find something interesting in the foreground, get that lighthouse a little bigger in the frame, and show even more of that amazing sky.
Yeah, I agree. Sharon's probably like, but you guys are always screaming foreground at me, and we are.
I know.
But, I mean, as we say, there's always a reason to break the rules, and I think I agree with you. This would have been one of them.
I think the lighthouse could be the foreground, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe the lighthouse and that little tree in front of it become the compelling foreground, and the sky is the whole story. It's just.
But big kudos to Sharon for working that, because I think it takes some trying to see that.
And I love the processing too. I don't do a ton of black and white middle of the day, but this is a great example of what to do when you have a wonderful sky day in the middle of the day to make it more compelling.
Yeah. Okay, so I have 3 photos here, and I purposely, Hudson hasn't even seen these yet, but I wanted, they're all of eagles. Number one, I have to say how weird this is. So this photo by a totally different person, right? Eagle catching a fish right out of the water. And then this photo, totally different person. They came up exactly right next to each other in the gallery.
Wow.
Which I just thought was uncanny. So anyway, so Hudson, here's what I was going to say is you so much for wildlife is trying to capture the wild, like trying to capture the animal doing something interesting, compelling. So anything beyond just sitting there or standing there. So I think both of these photos really did that.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the fish right there coming out, like that we got the water coming off and everything like that. For me, I kind of felt this was a little bit of a stronger photo because of the background. And it's tough because this photo, the background, which is the water, kind of gets pretty busy and distracting. Where background here is just, it's a shallow depth of field, so that background just goes out very, very blurry. I also love the light on that photo here.
I'm going to completely agree, and also say, a little bit faster shutter speed and stopping that motion works for me with the razor sharp wings.
On this one?
No, on the one with the beautiful out of focus background, with the forest as the background.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's some movement going on this one.
Yep.
Which can be
great. Which can be great, but it's a little distracting here, along with the water in the background.
If I could order up my best shot for this one, I'd get a little bit of water right down here, because you got to be at the right angle for that, and a little bit of water right down here that was just coming, the eagle's just coming off of the water, but the background is still silky smooth. And then I threw one more shot here just to kind of say, I know a lot of times we see the same photos, and so somebody can be saying, yeah, but why is that eagle shot better than that eagle shot? And so, when we have something like this, hopefully you can see the clutter difference in a photo like that versus this.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't control it. That doesn't mean that we're not going to point it out. And then sometimes it's a matter of finding a location and waiting for something to happen.
And wildlife doesn't play on cue. They don't really react to your script very well when you give instruction. But putting yourself in the best position to be able to capture the fish coming up out of the water with a little bit of water might involve getting a little higher up on the riverbank instead of being right down low on the water where you're going to be shooting up. It's just those little things. But again, there's a lot of luck, and I think beyond luck, just being out there constantly is what's really going to get you more and more of these great wildlife images.
Yeah. Somebody sent in a comment and mentioned that this photo here should have had the head position. It's not positioned correctly, but honestly, it's not bugging me that much. So
No.
I still think it's a great capture. Oh, cool photo, Hudson. This one was in your group.
Yeah, again, just I want to commend Wayne for recognizing the beauty in the simplicity. This has such a nice emotional feel to it, and part of the reason that it works so well, I mean, we've got wonderful misty early morning light coming through fog, which adds drama and emotion. It's backlit. That backlit light adds drama and emotion, and you're really using the rule of thirds and organizing your elements here in just the right way. The line in the horizon and the line between the heavy fog and the fog lifting are both put perfectly in sort of those lines that define the thirds of the image, and you've got the boat in just the right spot, and it's angled in a way that it could move into the scene instead of drawing our eye out of the scene. It leads us into the scene, and I just think it was a great job.
Yeah, I love how the water disappears into the background there. It looks really cool.
Yeah, nice job.
I think we got another one of yours here.
Yeah, and in this one, it's a little bit, it's very similar comments I have to the lighthouse photo. Again, you've done a good job not putting that horizon line, that demarcation between the water and the land right in the middle of the frame. But you have an amazing sky. You obviously have an amazing sunrise happening at this lake, and I want to see a little more sky. And I know we go on and on about the foreground elements, and you found a rock under the water to give us a foreground element here, but it just isn't quite strong enough in the frame for me. It's a small element, and it doesn't have, somehow it isn't leading me into the frame, and it's a little close to the bottom edge. So, if you can't find a rock that's a little bit more prominent, that you could get a little closer to and really draw our eye into it. And I'd also like to see your camera just a little bit lower and closer to whatever foreground element that you choose. Make it a little bit more bold presence in the scene and angle up more and get us more of the sky. And then the third comment is, I would back off the saturation and the highlight recovery in this one. I think it's getting on the edge of a little too much, but that's my personal preference.
Yeah. Hey Hudson, we got a question on this photo. Would you clone that extra piece of the boat out? I'm gonna guess maybe is that the little buoy back there or something?
It's a little buoy, or it's something that floats on the anchor chain. It's a personal preference. I probably wouldn't, because it doesn't distract me in this image. It's just a part of the scene. I don't know. Yeah, I probably wouldn't, but there's nothing wrong with cloning it out. It's just a personal preference.
Yeah. All right, I had two tree canopy style photos here. I had this one and then this one here. So I kind of included both of them because I saw this one. I was like, spot on. Love the tree canopy. Love the atmosphere. Love the color. Tried to minimize some of these bright spots in post as much as you could that are going to happen through the trees. I think I said I would have cropped it a little bit stronger, or a little bit more on the right-hand side, but just beautiful processing, beautiful way to recognize that little arch on that pathway going into it. So really nice composition too. And then, so when I saw this one, then I'm thinking, okay, like, what's the difference? And the difference is I think a big part of it's time of day. It's hard to capture the light in a photo like this at this time of day. So if people were to look at these tree arch photos, what sets one apart from the other? And the other thing is you could have probably cropped this photo right into here and eliminated all this really distracting stuff up here. And because I think that archway, and I almost probably would have, I maybe would have gone in the middle of the street here and tried to photograph that as well. I think that's one of those places where something being in the center could actually work.
And I think that jumping from a 46 millimeter to something around 180 or 200 could really make something more interesting out of the scene, because you do have interesting light at the end of that tunnel. It's just a little distracting in the foreground here, along with the fence and the grass and the sign.
Yeah. All right, I think we got a couple more here.
This one, I really like this one. It's not the kind of processing that I've ever done or engaged in, but it works really well. And I think it would have worked really well whether it was processed in this kind of watercolor technique or whether it was just the straight photo. And the reason for it is all the rules of composition are at work here. You've got these curved lines leading us into the frame, forming kind of a triangle. It's just really well composed to begin with, and the subject of interest, the person sitting reading out on the patio, is in just the right spot. It's violating the rules just a little bit by putting the horizon dead in the center, but a lot of times in these kinds of reflection images that really works well. And yeah, this one I think no matter what processing you did to it would work really well. And it's another one that in the middle of the day, maybe this is the part of the reason why this processing works better is, the highlights being blown kind of become a nice high key element in the watercolor version.
It'd make a really neat print for somebody that lived on or around this area and kind of wanted that. Make a pretty cool print to put on the wall. I could see like a nice black frame around it,
Absolutely. And actually, Barry left me a message on the Ask Hudson forum and told me that he kind of threw it in there just to test us and see whether we liked it or not, because he's sold a number of them. So kudos.
I could see it.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I could so see it.
Yeah. I know, another major violation of all the rules of composition that just works really well here. Sometimes it's all about the expression and symmetry, and I really like the shallow depth of field and the focus on the eyes, because no matter whether it's an animal or a person, the eyes are just the window in that connects us emotionally with a subject. And number 3367, it's just that one just cracked me up the minute I saw it.
Yeah, really, cool looking photo. Definitely very, very different. I almost want to see a little bit more on the bottom, but I just like the processing as well. So that kind of wraps us up for what we had to look at here. We had a couple of comments. Somebody had mentioned, I think we were talking about the time of day and predicting. Somebody had mentioned that there's an app out there. You can buy it on your phone, and there's like a website you can go to as well. The Photographer's Ephemeris.
It's a great app.
Ephemeris is EPHEMERIS. If you do a Google search, you'll find it. But that'll help you. You can kind of put a location in there, and it'll kind of help you predict what the sun and the moon will be doing during those times. So definitely an app to help everybody out there. So any closing thoughts, Hudson?
No, I thought it was a great group of images, and one of the things that struck me is that it seems as if every group of submissions is getting a little bit stronger, and it's fun to see.
Yeah, I totally agree. I saw it, but what's really cool is everybody else saw it too.
Yeah.
I looked in the comments on the website and any messages that were sent to us, and everybody else saw the quality of photos and commented on how the quality of photos really has gone up, even just over the last month and a half. So big congrats to everybody out there. I know it's really hard to do. I know it's hard to put your work out there for others to see, but hopefully you're seeing the rewards from it, and just all I can say is keep at it, and thanks for being a part of it with us. So guys, we've recorded this video. It will get put online. We'll put it onto the Plus website, so you'll be able to go back and rewatch. And once again, thanks so much, Hudson.
Thanks everybody. Good times.
Talk to you again soon.